Good morning. So, as part of the conclusion of Hemshech Ayin Beis that we arrived at, ready now on the second bounce, second time, namely concluding on page 1477. So we're learning the source material of Ayin Beis based on the Mittler Rebbe's Maimer, which in turn is based on the Alter Rebbe's Maimer, Mika Hashem Elokeinu. And we're on page 385. This is referring to the Maimori Admuram Tzoi. It's a series called the Maimorim of the Mittler Rebbe. It's in Bereishis, because the Chanukah Maimer in Bereishis, Parsha Miketz area. So it's there, page 385, and the pages were all scanned, can be found PDF format at ayinbeis.com. For that matter, also the text of Ayin Beis is all there. So we put it all up online. So let me review where we're up to and continue along, emphasizing again and again that the Hemshech Ayin Beis, the Rebbe Rashab, did not finish. He continued writing, probably we know at least till 1918, Tofrei Shayin Ches, because he refers to discourses with that date, with that year. So it may have been later, and maybe he didn't refer to any Maimorim, but doesn't mean he didn't continue writing. We know that his Estalkus Elula is in 1920, Tofrei Pei, the second day of Nisan. So we're talking here about from 1912, when Ayin Beis began, through 1918 for sure, and maybe later. Could have been he read it all the way till 1920 for all we know, but he did not finish it. Simultaneously, just for the record, the Rebbe Rashab was writing and delivering other Maimor, mind you, because what we're learning now, volume 3 in Ayin Beis, he never delivered, he only wrote. The first 2 volumes he also delivered in Lubavitch, but then he stopped saying them on Shabbosim or Yom Tov, he only wrote. But simultaneous in 1913, well, I would say that let's go from 1916, we have Tofrei Shayin Zayin, we have Tofrei Shayin Ches, we have Tofrei Shayin Tes, Tofrei Pei, we have entire volumes of Maimorim that the Rebbe Rashab was saying and writing. This was simultaneous, so he was clearly writing more than one thing. He was writing Ayin Beis while he was also writing other Maimorim. So obviously, I looked in those Maimorim to see if there are any hints to things that he would have written in Ayin Beis, because if he was writing at the same time, very likely that there may be overlap. But there isn't much, to be honest. It's like 2 different tracks. From time to time, he'll mention Ayin Beis, but nothing that I found, at least, that you can, in this detective work of trying to uncover more clues to the themes and where Ayin Beis would have gone, different ideas. But on the other hand, looking at the Mittler Rebbe's Maimer, and prior to that, the Alter Rebbe's Maimer that we've learned, and we are now learning the Mittler Rebbe, you get plenty. Because here, you actually see how Ayin Beis is structured parallel to the structure of the Mittler Rebbe. And we've already did those parallels. Now, we're continuing learning where the Rebbe Rashab left off. So the Rebbe Rashab, where we have the end of Ayin Beis now, presently, is about the Yichud of the 2 Yichudim. Yechud Tata and Yechud Elah. Basically, experiencing the divine on our terms, meaning existence terms. That's Yechud Tata Bitla Yesh, in the words of the Rebbe Rashab, which is his own addition. It doesn't say those words in the Mittler Rebbe or the Alter Rebbe. And the higher Yechud Elah is understanding it from God's point of view, and that is that nothing exists except God. But Hail Deus Havaya, Atzmus includes both these, because he wanted both. He didn't just want Bittul Mitzias. He wanted also that Bittul Hayesh, meaning the divine as a manifest in existence should also experience the higher level of unity. And that's where he elaborates a lot about how they're really one from God's perspective. And we too. So we begin first with Yechud Tata Das Tachta. Then we climb to Yechud Elah Das Elyon. But then we reach a point where we can understand from Atzmus' point of view, where Das Tach and Das Elyon are like one. And that's how Ayin Beis concludes. The Mittler Rebbe obviously talks about it as well, at length. But then the Mittler Rebbe now has continued, and what we've been learning is more breakdown now, because all of this is the avodah of what? Of Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. So the Rebbe Rashab just told us briefly about Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad is the union in Bon Pasuk of the two unions. But the Mittler Rebbe goes deeper and further into the Pasuk, into the Tefillah, explaining firstly on page 384. Because 384 is more or less where you can say that the Rebbe Rashab stopped. Had he written further, it would have been 384 and on. So in 384, the Mittler Rebbe first explains the word Shema Yisroel, the emphasis on Yisroel, because Yisroel Ola b'machshava. Why do neshamis? Why are they the unique ambassadors and shluchim, emissaries of God, to come into this world and reveal? And this higher level, these higher level of yichud, is because Ola b'machshava, because they're rooted in the highest levels. At the same time, the neshama comes down as well, down below, and down below it can manifest and draw down from these highest levels all the way into this existence. And thus you have the all levels, all three levels of unity, the level of unity below, the level above, and the joining of both of them. That's what we learned on page 384. In more details, on bottom of 384, in the middle of 385, where we're up to now, he continued with two questions. First is, what is this pasuk coming to add? What is Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu coming to add to that which we already know, that God is everywhere? We already know Ein Od Milvadei. And we know Mebilodai Ein Elikim. And the language of the Gemara, when it says Hashem Echad in the future, it says, and today he's not one. Meaning we know it's already an existent fact that we know that the divine is one with existence. Or better put, that the divine encompasses all of existence. So what is Shema Yisrael coming to add? That was question number one. Question number two was, Lo mitzarech liyichud zeh b'Yisrael dafke. Why is this yichud dafke in Yisrael? And I was saying also through Yisrael. So even though we learned before, obviously, that Yisrael is rooted in a higher level, but he wants more explanation of the connection to Neshamas Yisrael. That they are the ones that actually manifest this yichud by crowning God as king. Like tamlichuhu b'shemayim v'aretz shu Hashem v'adalad shuches v'adalad v'he'elaf aluf Hashem echad. So they take the echad, which is the ches and dalad, which is existence, and reveal in it aluf Hashem. So to explain this, the Mittler Rebbe says the following. This is the page 385. I'm summing up our last class. He says that the concept of Havaya Lekenu, and that's of course a very central term. Like he's later going to say, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu, and all our blessings. We also say Hashem Elokeinu. And of course here, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu. And also the pasuk that this mimer begins with, Mik Hashem Elokeinu. And I pointed out a number of times through our shiur classes, you see it everywhere. Hashem Hu Elokim. We say it 7 times at the end of Yom Kippur. I mean, there's countless references to Hashem Elokeinu in blessings, in different verses. The Yedaita Ayin, which he's also going to bring a little later, big operative verse of Ayin Beis. Yedaita Ayin, Vashavesel Bavecha what? Ke'avaya Hu Elokim. Because there it doesn't say Elokeinu, but again, Havaya and Elokim. So the basic interpretation of that, and I don't really want to go through all the different ways of explaining it, is that transcendent Havaya is one with Elokim Gematria Teva, with the divine within existence, basically negating pantheism, Spinoza's pantheism, that nature is God and God is nature. God is nature, but nature is not God. So the Havaya that's higher than existence is one with Havaya within existence. At the beginning of Ayin Beis, volume 3, and in volume 2, he explained the Havaya Elokim. Havaya is Gilui, Elokim is Tzimtzum. And the Havaya, that even the Tzimtzum is also, its purpose is to manifest Havaya, and the purpose of Havaya is to manifest through Tzimtzum, B'shvil HaGilui, in order to reveal to the Makablim, to existence, the divine. That's a very basic interpretation. But here the Mittler Rebbe is going and saying like this, that Havaya Lekenu, he says, is not it's not just like we said before. He's going back to the two explanations in Lekenu on the previous page. One was a deeper interpretation that Lekenu means it's our exclusive God. So he says now, it's good. Levad, but we say, Ein zerak metam di yisol ol machshava HaKodesh levad. Because then you can say Hashem Elokeinu, Shema Yisroel. Why Yisroel? Because Dafki Yisroel, Elokeinu, we connect to the highest levels of God. It's like our God. That would refer to the exclusivity of a neshama and its unique power to access and manifest the highest levels of Elokus, the highest levels of Yichud. Kel Deus Havaya, the Yichud that comes from that joins both of the Yichudim. He says, but it's not just that. Elamatam, the other side of the coin. Because Neshamas Yisrael come down and internalize Elokeinu. Elokeinu from the word, it's mine as an internally mine. That Havaya, which is transcendent, is becoming internalized as Elokeinu, Yove Begufim, that we go down into this world, the Neshamas, come down to the lowest of worlds, and perform Torah and Mitzvos, including the mitzvah of Ava V'yira, which includes Avahaftas Hashem Elchecha B'chol Levavcha, that you in your heart, that's Elokeinu. It's not just that you believe in God or that you recognize there's a God, but you're actually internalizing it, that you are feeling it with all your heart, even with your nefesh habamis. She doesn't, says he'll explain soon. But the point is that you're bringing down these levels of yichud all the way down below. So that refers to that neshamas are rooted at such a high level. The safe ma'aseh b'ma'olah b'machshava tchila. So the safe ma'aseh, that's the kavanah, which is really the two interpretations in Elokeinu, therefore are really interconnected. It's because the whole purpose of the neshamas rooted so high is for them to come down below. So safe ma'aseh, when they come down below, they fulfill the purpose for which they were initially created in the first place. When it says God olah b'machshava, it wasn't just that he first thought of neshamas and they're the central purpose of existence. He thought of them because they will fulfill his purpose in this world, like he's going to say in a moment, dira b'tachtenim. Like we say, all of existence is on the condition that Yisroel, the bris, the covenant, and condition that Eden would do mitzvahs. Bereishis b'shvil ha-Torah sheba lamata dafka. That bereishis for the Torah and for the Eden that would perform Torah dafka lamata. Not b'shamayim, le b'shamayim, not in heaven. And that's the Sava Dira Lamata B'Tachtenim. He wants the desire that the neshamas come down below and make a Dira B'Tachtenim even higher than it is in higher worlds. So even though the Torah is rooted in Chachma Shalmaila, in supernal and higher levels of wisdom, of divine wisdom, and mitzvahs are rooted in the Mahus Atzmus Pnimius Ratzon Elyon, it's God's desire. But the goal is not Tilas B'Seifon. He brings now the second expression, that the beginning is wedged in the end, like he said, Seif Ma'aseh Ma'olah Machshava Tchila, that dafk in the Berurim of Shem Havaya and Torah Mitzvahs in this physical world of Klippas Nega, to transform the darkness to light, which is taken through Torah, through the Ma, Shem Ma of Chachmah, that helps us, Torah helps us clarify and separate and refine the world. But the bottom line is to refine the world, not just to have a divine revelation. And like we learned earlier about Adam or Behema, that the point is that the Adam should come down into the Behema, that you have the divine soul manifesting in the animal soul. Ma'uban, the neshama atzma, the neshama itself doesn't need repair. The neshama is a divine entity. And it only came down to be mevara, the klippas nega of the animal soul, to transmit it bepnimius, v'atzmis b'teira mitzvahs v'aviyir sichlin b'tivim dafka. So all this comes to tell us, Havaya Elokeinu is to bring the highest levels into Elokeinu. Here means Elokeinu, not just our exclusive God, that we have an exclusive relationship with God, but bring it down, Elokeinu b'pnimius, and that's Rizeu Shavaya ha'pnimius v'atzmis the Ein Sof hu Elokeinu mamish. And that's what we mean, Shema Yisrael Havaya Elokeinu, that the pnimius and atzmis of Ein Sof, Havaya, is Elokeinu mamish, like we say in all the mitzvahs, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu, which is higher than the others, because they didn't have the name Havaya, was not revealed to them, as we know from Pasha Ve'era. but it's dafke to the Eden after by Mitzrayim and then after Matan Torah. And we continued. Let me just continue the last where we stopped. And he continued. V'zehu shenivdel be'erech mekol ishtalshus esses spheres de biyah. So we're talking about a level that's higher than ishtalshus of the 10 spheres of biyah. That would be lamayla. That's elamis ruchnim. We're now talking going even higher than the structure. And v'huba mashavai is zeh elokeinu mamish. And that avaya beyond all of existence comes down all the way below into Elokeinu Mamish without a Shini Mechus, like we learned earlier. The whole point is that Yechud Eloh, Yechud Tatar are one without a change. That the divine, as it is in the highest levels, does not get diluted or changed or shifted in any way. So even though from our point of view, it went through a parsa, a partition, and a tzimtzum, and there are 2 levels of Ayin, but as we learn from Atzmus' point of view, both levels of Ayin are one, are united as one. Ayin muhuse v'atzmus mamish, k'moishu dafke, k'moishu dafke mislabish b'shem havaya. So Atzmus Ein Sof, exactly as it is, manifests in Shem havaya, which manifests in turn in Torah and Mitzvos of Neshamas Yisroel. Liyas begili alakuz dafke bli helen v'levush. So all those highest levels are coming down, that they manifest down below without any concealment. That's the goal. Obviously, it begins with concealment, or else you wouldn't have creation. But we're talking about the goal of what Shema Yisrael is coming to achieve. Havaya L'Keinu. Before Shema Yisrael, before Havaya L'Keinu, it goes through all these gradations because you have to create existence. But this is what it comes. This is the Aveda, that it should be believed Helen V'Levush Master Klal, Kamei Havaya L'Kov Imoy. The lekov zeh ina master l'shem avaya klal. In ishtalshalus of Seva Mamala, there Elikim or Elikenu is master. Shemesh Shemogan Hashem Elikim. It's like the sheath, the filter that does in some way dilute or at least this diffuse the light of the sun. But that's in ishtalshalus. However, there Havaya is Elikim Mamish. So even as it goes through Elikim, it's exactly the same level of same intense level of bittul like it is in Havaya itself. As I pointed out, the parentheses where we stopped after the parentheses was a little unclear where the end of the parentheses is. I thought it over. I think it could be in 2 places. I'll point it out. So then he says, so that's the level of Tiferes, which joins together Tula, Chesed, Gvura. Havaya and Elikim is Chesed and Gvura. Tiferes is Kavem Tzoi. Mi kamoicha the Elim Havaya. Dafke. So even Be'elim is Havaya. That means that you see that they're joined together. And then he brings about the 3 bonds that Yisroel bonds with Torah, which bonds with the Eibishter, and you say Yisroel, Reis of Yisroel, Kutshebrichu, both the hidden and the revealed part of all these 3 levels all become one. That the Eris and Kalim, Bechinas Eris and Kalim, Primis Chetzenis, Hakol Echad Mamish. Not like it is in Seder Shtalshus, but Ein Chetzenis Master Leprimius Kal. And the outer does not conceal at all in the inner, which actually is the words of the Rebbe Rashab actually quoted that. If you remember, Chitzenius and Primus, we spoke about the Seichel in the example of the teacher, you don't see there's no difference between Primus and Chitzenius on that level. So the 2 places that parentheses could either end by, I said on Friday, I said after the word dafka, and the parentheses should end there. Another place possibly after the word vigalia. So then you would read like this: So the I think it fits more the reading if you put the parentheses after the word Vigalia. Because if you put it after the word Dafke, there's not a smooth flow from Neshamas Yisrael to Kamosha Kosav Malkamacher. So either way it works, but the bottom line is it's very clear that the Havaya Lakim in the Torah Mitzvos and Neshamas Yisrael is unlike the way it is in Ishtalshlus. Now remember, Ishtalshlus is the process of creation, and Torah and Neshama Yisrael is the process of Avodah. So it's not it's two different things here. We talked many times, in creation you have all these gradations, and the Tzimtzum and Havaya and Elikim, two different levels, like the teacher teaching the student. But once you start with Avodah, the goal is Shema Yisrael, Havaya Lekenu, that we should come to recognize that the Havaya that is higher than the student is really one as it manifests within the student, or in the case here, within existence. And that's where we stopped. That's a summary. So you see very clearly here, firstly, the central theme of Ayin Beis is very blatant, and that is interface. It's all about interface. We're interfacing between divine and existence, and not on just low levels, on the highest possible levels. So that's the central theme of Ayin Beis in general. Especially once we learned Ayin Beis, we talked about Havaya Lekim V'Yadaita, which is now going to go to V'Yadaita, which is what makes it even stronger, the connection, because recently in the Ayin Beis, he didn't mention V'Yadaita, but the whole beginning of the volume 3, and the middle, and volume 2, was all around the pasuk V'Yadaita. From the Shavuos Maimer 9 he's already been talking V'Yadaita for hundreds of pages already. So now the Mittler Rebbe is actually going to bring that pasuk in here. So when you read it and you know Ayin Beis, you see how it all weaves together into one glorious picture, if you wish. Okay. So before I continue, I did the summary. I think it's pretty clear. As I said, the language is sometimes a little difficult to work through, but once you work it through, the themes are very clear, especially since we learned them in Ayin Beis in a very broken down on a very detailed level. But if anybody wants to clarify anything or ask anything, please do.
This is in Hashem Elokeinu. What Hashem Echad we did not explain, right?
Not well in Ayin Beis he did, but in Mittler Rebbe he mentioned it a few times. He said Havaya Lekeinu before is Yichud Elah, Havaya Echad he said is Yichud Tata. He did say that, but not in this section. In this section he hasn't come back to Havaya Echad. Even though on the previous page he did, he said Havaya Lekeinu is Havaya Echad, that the Havaya, as it comes into existence, Aleph Ches Daled, the Aleph and Ches and Daled is the same Havaya as Havaya Lekeinu. That he did say. But right now he is focusing most on Havaya Lekeinu. We'll see how he gets back to Havaya Echad. I would wait and see how the Rebbe...
It is very interesting. Somebody showed me yesterday when davening in the morning that when they said Havaya Echad, you could see it every place when Shema Yisrael mentioned every place, Shachris, Ma'ariv, Kishma Shalamito, between Havaya on the Echad, there is a line. You could see it. Nobody's paying attention to that.
A hyphen, yes.
Fascinating.
I am familiar, yeah.
And I think if he's saying it, it's Yichud Torah, maybe that's the explanation, that after all, Yehuda Torah, we're knowing that this is a bit of a Yesh. So from Havaya to Echad, even if he's saying that this is one thing, but still, it's not like Yehuda law.
It could be. That could be. I think in some Maimorim it talks about the hyphen, if I recall correctly. But he didn't mention it here. We'll see, because here also it seems like Havaya Lekeinu here sounds somewhat that a Lekeinu is Mamala and Havaya is like Seviv. There's a little mashma like that here. But remember, he also said earlier that that Shema Yisrael Havaya Lekeinu Havaya Echad is Yichud Elah and Baruch Shem is Yichud Tata. But when you break it down further, it's Havaya Lekeinu and Havaya Echad. So I would wait to see if the Mittler Rebbe addresses more of this. And if not, I have what to say about it, because there are the two interpretations that I just said. The question is Havaya Lekeinu. I want to see how he finishes with Havaya Lekeinu. He's still in the middle of Havaya Lekeinu right now. So let's continue reading here. And he's going to discuss it. And then it's pretty detailed in the next few pages. As I said, this is going to go now. He's going to first finish Havaya Lekeinu, then he's going to go back to Vahafta, the effect on the animal soul. Then he's going to go back to the Shemen, how the animal soul becomes oil, fuel for the divine love, and for the divine soul, which is the wick. And then the bottom of page 390 is going to go to Ner Mitzvah V'Teira Er, which the Rebbe Rashab initially introduced but never got back to. But first, let's finish with the Nefesh Abami. There's still things that need to be covered here. So let's continue reading. I'm 3 lines from the bottom of page 385. Anybody wants to, any other questions? Okay.
I have one other question. When we talk about Yichudei Allah with Havaya V'Elokeinu, I've learned before in other places about the level of Anoichi, the level of Ata, and Atzmus and Muhus. When the Rebbe is talking about this highest Yichud, Yichudei Allah, are we assuming that this Havaya is at the same level as a Neichi, Ata, and Atzmus and Muhus, or do we realize that it's still a lower level than those 3 levels that I've learned from other places? Maybe it's a mistake of mine, but I just want to know the relationship between this Havaya, the Le'ela, and those 3 other levels that I've learned in other places.
It's difficult to say because each place has its own emphasis. I would have to see what you're learning exactly, and each place may be different. There are many levels, and different Maimorim talk about different levels in different ways. I don't know if you can even reconcile all these names. Remember, there's also Anoichi, you mentioned Ata, and then there's Lo Yisrames, V'Lei B'Shumeis, V'Lei B'Shum Kates, and there's even higher than that. There's so many levels, like Shmaya Atzmi and Helam Atzmi, which we have not addressed now. And so I'd have to see each mimer independently to see if and how you could fit it in and reconcile with what we're learning here. Not that there's contradictions, but in different Maimorim. Remember, Maimorim are written not as the Rebbe said a number of times. It's not an encyclopedia, Chassidus. So you can't just bring them all together and say, okay, here's the order. You have different Maimorim will speak about things in different ways. Even Havaya Lekenu is explained. I could enumerate right now, at least that I know of, at least 10 different ways it's explained. In Encyclopedia Sefer Erchim, that Rabiel compiled, Sefer Erchim Chabad, and also Sefer Likutim. If you go to Echad, the Erch Echad, you'll find many explanations. So I'd have to see each one. Like if you told me a particular level, I could tell you where it may fit in what we're learning here. Here, you could suffice to say the following. In Ayin Beis especially, Ayin Beis was much more clearly where those levels are. You have Yichudei Tata, you have Yichudei Law, and you have Atzmus that joins them both together. So clearly there are 3 levels here. That's for sure. In Ayin Beis, it seemed most of the Ayin Beis was going that it's either Shema Yisrael, Havaya Lekenu is Yichudei Law, and Havaya Chad is Yichudei Tata, and both of them being in one pasuk is Mahava Echad Be'echad is their union. The second way, and Mittler Rebbe also says that, and the second way is that Shema, the whole Shema is Yichudei Law, and Baruch Shem Kaved Malchusei is Yichudei Tata, and they're joined together. But right now he's been talking more within. Now the question is Havaya Lekenu itself. What are these 2 levels of Havaya Lekenu? If it's both Yichudei Law and Havaya Chad is Yichudei Tata, then what's the difference in Havaya and Lekenu? So that is not really spelled out yet, and I'd wait to see. But anyway, regarding your question, I would have to hear what level you were talking about. I could tell you where I think, what level it's associated with here. And I'm sure in different Maimorim it's different, so you have to always keep that in mind. Okay? Generally speaking, I'll just say one more thing about this. When I learn these in Yonim, though I've learned in another Maimorim, I try to always not process. I try to learn what does it say here. Once I've figured out as much as I can and try to master as much as one can what it says in this Maimor, then I'll go back and look at other Maimorim I've learned and see, is it talking the same level? Is it a different level? Is it a different explanation? But if you jump the gun and try to immediately connect, you're not going to understand what it says here. You're not going to understand what it says there. So Maimorim in general, it's best is not to try to connect Maimorim unless you have no choice, or the Rebbe itself, the Maimor itself connects it with something else. So I'm just saying it's just a matter of creating, first trying to get clarity in one thing you're learning, and then you start the comparative discussions. Just going to be much clearer, the final conclusions about it. Okay. So let's continue now. So 3 lines from the bottom of page 385. So now he says, now that we've established that in the Shamas Yisroel and Torah and Mitzvos, Havaya Lekenu are joined as one, not like in the Shtalshlus that Lekenu is a Tzimtzum, like we usually learn. Look in Tanya. Tanya, Havaya is Shemesh, Gili Elikus, Elikim is Tzimtzum. It conceals, like the sheath around the sun. So here, but Torah Mitzvos, we just learned the Veda of the Shamas Yisrael and Torah Mitzvos is. So now, the L'chein Oma v'yadaita Ayin. Remember, v'yadaita Ayin is a mitzvah. He explained earlier in Ayin Beis in volume 2 that Ata Hareisa Ladas Ke'avayu Elikim. That is a Gili Mulmaila. That's not a mitzvah. It says you revealed yourself. You Atzmus revealed yourself. Ke'avayu Elikim. Ened Muvade. He explained that's Mulmaila Lamata. When you say v'yadaita Ayin, it's a mitzvah to you. You shall know. It's a command. You shall know today. You shall perceive. You shall understand. And you shall take to your heart. So now, when it says v'yadaita Ayin, ke'avayu elikim mamish, that's the command. They're being told, like we learned at the end of Ayin Beis. It's not just that God, but in Atzmus, there's the union of Das Alien and Das Tachten, Keil Deus Havaya, V'loi Niskanu Aliles. But Havaya Lekim Mamish is something we need to be aware of. The Kula Chad, that it's all one. She'em B'chinas Parsa Hanal Mailim Klal, that the Parsa we're talking about, which is in Seder Ishtalshalus, there's a Parsa. In order to create, you need to have the partition for the teacher to be able to convey to the student, for the creator to diminish the oil in a way that the existence, the creation, can receive it. But that's not the goal. The goal is ultimately that the creation, and here namely in the Shema Yisroel, is a mitzvah. It's a unique mitzvah. The mitzvah is that you should be miyachid avaya lekenu mamish v'yadaita yem ki avaya lekim mamish. That to the point that the parsa is not concealing. So your hisbonenus, your contemplation is coming to realize the parsa only conceals for the creations, from the creation's perspective, not from God's perspective. Like we learned at length earlier, and especially in Ayin Beis. Ayin Beis, there's the whole section how the parsa does not conceal. So the teacher, even the seichel that he's preparing for a student is all encompassed, all within him. Then the parsa separates, so it should be able to, the student should be able to receive it. But from his point of view, they both connected to this teacher in an equal manner. Ulakach. And now he's going to go back to things he said earlier. And therefore, b'chinas das elyon v'das tachten shavin. So das elyon, the perspective from above, that's how God, so to speak, sees himself and sees existence through those eyes, and existence is completely nullified. The Ayin of the Yesh HaAmiti, like we learned. And Das Tachten is the divine within existence. Shavin are equal. And the Rebbe Rashab explained why, because they're both tracks, they're both Ratzon. Hashem wanted both of them. From the outset, he wanted both. In reality, it would take a parsa and a tzimtzum to reveal the second one. It was not discernible yet. But he wanted them both from the outset. Yichud Ilav, Yichud Tata, and this is the 2 levels of Yichud, the higher Yichud and the lower Yichud. Be'ein shinui klal. Without any change. In other words, even though ostensibly from the perspective of the recipient, they'd be 2, there's no shinui klal canal, like we learned earlier. The nitfas, ve'ena nitfas. Next page, 386. He goes back to the language that he used quite a few times, that ihu taf is bekula alman, v'les machshava tvisa beklal. He contains and defines existence, but existence does not contain or define him. As we learned earlier, the two opposites. That even though God manifests in existence, but he's not manifest by it, not defined by it, not contained by it. So there you see Yichud Eloh, Yichud Tata, without a shinui. There's shinui, there's just as he was before he created existence. Atuhu Atu kodim shenivra, that's our atu mishenivra elo. No shinui. Remember, this is for Atzmus, and we have through our Veda the ability to access that. That's the key thing to keep in mind. And initially, we don't have that level. We need the Aveda for that. That's why there's a mitzvah, Shema, V'yadaita, etc. The Zehu, this Yichud of Avaya Lakim, is not mitzvah Ishtalshalos. Because Ishtalshalos of Avaya Lakim are two different tracks, two different functions. One reveals, one conceals. She says, the Zehu daf mitzvah Pnimi is the Avaya Lakim. The Torah and Mitzvos, V'neshamas Yisroel. This is dafka coming from the pnimius of Avaya Lakim. Remember, pnimius Atzmus, Ola b'machshava, higher than ishtalshalos. In other words, the real purpose of Avaya Lakim, to create, you need to have revelation and concealment. But the purpose of it all is that that Lakim should manifest Havaya, and that is embedded within the DNA of Torah Mitzvos and Neshamas Yisrael. Begilish Kina. And we see that, where did it manifest in the Beis HaMikdash? Where the Shekhinah was revealed, Beheichel Kodesh Kadoshim, in the Holy of Holies, in the chamber of the Holy of Holies. Like we learned earlier, remember, Mokem Ha'adon Eina Min Amida. Dafka there. So the rest of the world is also created by God. So even space, everywhere in existence from God's point of view is one with beyond space. But not from our point of view. Space is a very real reality. But in the place where it's revealed, like in Torah and Mitzvos and Hashem Yisrael, and the Beis HaMikdash and the Shekhinah, you have this Gilui. So, Gam Shema, which is higher than it is in heaven and in existence. Like he brings out the pasuk, Gam Shamayim v'Shmei Shamayim lo yichalkalu. The heavens and the heaven of heavens, Shlomo HaMelech said, cannot contain him. Cannot contain you, God. He asks as a question, and God says, that's correct, that's a statement. If the heavens and heavens of heavens can't contain you, and they're much larger than the Beis HaMikdash, as big as the building was, it wasn't like the heavens of heavens, how is it possible, this small structure can contain you? And Hashem says, exactly right, read it not as a question, as a statement, b'nechusa. Heaven and heavens can't contain me, but I want to be contained in this because that's the power of Elikus, of Atzmus. He can go be contained in existence, but not be contained by it. And he diminished, meaning he channeled his oir. You'll see in a minute, he means that tzimtzum from the point of view that it should be in the Beis HaMikdash and not outside the Beis HaMikdash. But it's, as you're going to see in a moment, at the same time, it's not diluted or tzimtzum at all. The tzimtzum is sham b'chinas tfisa mamish. So in the Beis HaMikdash, we had the actual divine revelation where Hashem spoke to Moshe in the Mishkan from the Shnei Badei Ad, and Kodesh Kadoshim was a gilui of Atzmus there. Im kol zeh mokem ha'adon min amida. While he's manifesting, and there's a mokem, there's a Beis HaMikdash, and there are rules where each section and each partition is in the Beis HaMikdash. At the same time, the space is beyond space. The space of the Adam did not have measure. How's that possible? Because that's the union of Das Elyon and Das Tachton. On one hand, you measure it, there's a space. On the other hand, you measure the whole room, there's no space, and they come together, space and no space, all as one, as we learned earlier. The Ayin nitfus, because though he manifests there, but he's not contained by it. So he contains it, but is not contained by it and not defined by it. Okay. Now it looks like the Mittler Rebbe is going to say something even stronger. Because here's the question now. Is there a difference between Kodesh Kadoshim and Torah and Mitzvos? And I think he's going to say something a little more mind-blowing here.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
In the comment or the pasuk or whatever, he says, "Gam shemayim v'shmei shemayim lo yichalkulu." That's from our perspective, but from his perspective, can yichalkulu? Correct?
No, not in heavens of heavens. In the Beis Hamikdash. Shlomo Melech said, the heaven and heavens can't contain you. So how could this house contain you? How could this structure contain you? So Hashem says, heaven and heavens can't contain me. That's correct. But I want to be contained in this Beis Hamikdash.
I see. Okay, thank you. But yet, the creation is him. That's why I said, when Shlomo Melech says what Shemayim v'shmei shemayim lo yichalkulu, but it could be in the Beis Hamikdash, from Abraham's perspective, he can be contained because of kol echad, everything. There's a yichud of everything. So everything. I mean, he's contained by it, but he's not contained by it. It's like this paradox, right?
Okay, but he's saying that's only revealed in the Beis Hamikdash. You don't see it in the world.
I see. Okay. From our perspective, from God's perspective, it's all the same. That's what we're talking about.
From God's perspective, does not mean it's revealed. We're talking about us revealing it, that we also can experience it.
Understood.
So the question is, if we can we reveal that in the world the way, let's say, it's revealed in the Beis Hamikdash? That's a fair question. In other words, will it be only in the Beis Hamikdash, or will it be in the entire world? Because we do say, in other words, this divine unity, the third level of Tasa and Das Tachten, will it be in the entire world, or will it only be in the Beis Hamikdash? Because on one hand, you could argue it should be in the entire world. Why not? Since that's the reality, that's truth. Why can't we reveal in the entire world? Yet we do say that the Beis Hamikdash has a unique role to play. Like it says, for example, that when Mashiach comes, Yisroel will expand to the extent to the whole world, and the Yerushalayim will extend to all of Israel, and the Beis Hamikdash will extend to all of Yerushalayim. So in other words, there's still going to be relative different levels. You can't say that the whole world will be the same holiness like the Temple Mount with the Beis Hamikdash Ashlishi. So you probably have to answer that the world experiences a high level of unity like that, the joining of the two, but in that itself, there may be many levels. I'm just right now speculating. He didn't say it at all, but you have to say something like that. But I want to see where he's going to go here, because he's still going to talk. He's still talking about this topic. You understand the point I just made?
100%.
The different levels of Mashiach.
In other words, like it says, like today you have klippas, shlosh klippas atmeis, you have klippas noiga, things you're not allowed to do, things that you're permitted, but it's klippas noiga. You have gedusha, but we know there's eser gedusha, same. There's levels of gedusha. There's kodesh, there's kodesh kodashim. You know, there's levels. So loss of love, the loss of love, what you'll do is eliminate the klippas. That will be gone. But in gedusha itself, you have to say there'll be levels in Kedusha. There'll be, for example, Mashiach and the rest of the people. There'll be a Kohen Gadol. There'll be, not, it says, Kulam Yedu Esi, everyone will know Atzmus, but it'll be Miktanim V'Agdelim. There will be a Kotan and a Gadol. So in Kedusha itself, in other words, in the Yichud with Atzmus, of connection of, like I said with Shema, each of us are going to do it in our own way. It's like today. It doesn't mean that you and I are going to have the same perception of the Yichud of Yichud Elo Yichud Ato, like the Rebbe does, let's say, or that Moshe Rabbeinu does. So in other words, from Atzma's point of view, it's always this highest level of unity. But each of us is going to have to integrate that to a certain extent, and there's also room for growth. Even one person himself, you'll keep on appreciating deeper levels of this divine unity, even when you get to the third level. No, the third level is not a final destination. It's the truth. But then it itself probably, well, not probably, for sure, will have many levels. You have to say that, because we're going to say also after Mashiach comes. It's not like it's all b'chol meidecha and there's no more b'chol avavcha b'chol nafshcha, because we're still going to exist. It's still going to be within our parameters. It's just that in our parameters, we're going to appreciate that which is beyond parameters. So in that itself, remember, this is not just an intellectual exercise. If it's an Aveda, for sure there are going to be constant variations. In Haskalah, you could say, okay, philosophically, we got the idea, one unity, two units, higher level of unity, and the joining of the two. But in Avodah, there's always going to be differences and growth. The more I talk about it, the more that's really ultimately the explanation. That's pretty. Again, he didn't say it explicitly. I'm saying it from my own understanding, but it's for me. I'm ready to say that pretty definite, definitively. That's the meaning behind it.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that was.
So in other words,
that
let me
was
put it this
important.
way: will there be a difference between the elokus that you see in a stone, Even Mikir Tizak, and the elokus in a Sefer Torah? Obviously, there will be. So even though a stone will also reveal Atzmus, but to say that's the same level at a Sefer Torah or a mezuzah or tefillin, no, there's nothing wrong with saying that there are levels of Kedusha. Obviously, when you get to a certain level of Atzmus, it's one big equalizer. But at the end of the day, this is a bigger discussion. I will talk about it, but I don't want to digress too much. But you have to say that there's some type of, let's put it this way, just like I mentioned about the shamas and the world. A stone can reveal Atzmus. I'm sorry, a stone we can reveal within a stone Atzmus, but the stone does not do the revealing. We do the revealing. And the stone itself can cry out Elokus, but a stone is not going to replace a neshama. A neshama is an active child of God, meaning that comes into this world that has the power of olah b'machshava that's higher than the others. So you'll say, 1 second, but Atzmus, everything is one. What's the difference in a plain stone and a neshama? You have to say ultimately that there are entities that manifest, like Ein Sof manifests in a revealed way much more the expression of the divine revelation than, let's say, the Yesh does. Even though the Yesh is rooted deeper in Atzmus because it reveals the etzem of Atzmus that is Mitzusim Atzmusei and doesn't have a Ila V'siba cause. But if you talk about who's the so-called ambassador, who's the minister that expresses the king's will best, it's Torah and Mitzvos. You're not going to ask a stone, tell me what's the din or something like that. Even though a stone will cry out, it's Shabbos today, but still a stone is not where you sit down with and you learn Torah from a stone. You're going to learn Torah from Torah. So you have to say that the revelation of Etzem, even in existence, has many different expressions. Let's put it that way.
Very nicely said. It's a realm of Yichud Shalom, but from our perspective, there are gradations of it, even when there's a shlemus of the Yichudim.
Right. The bottom line, I would say the diversity will remain. Diversity is not a contradiction to Achdus. The contradiction to Achdus is when the diversity conceals the unity. It conceals the Etzem or conceals the Elokus. But to say that will have a multi, what's the word I would say? Like many different musical notes that will all express the Atzmus beauty, why not? Not just why not, that makes it even richer, actually.
Yes,
in other words, today diversity reflects more of a concealment. Why are things different? Because we don't all see our source in the one Hashem, in the unity of God. But once you do see it, the unity of God can manifest in many facets. Like a diamond, all its facets can shine and from many different angles, and you all get back to the same unity. It's like science, in a way, is discovering the inner unity, the intrinsic unity in all of existence, even though there are many different details in that. So it's a bigger discussion. It's worthy having. I would rather wait because I think there's going to be more said that may help us with this, but it's definitely on that track because it's giving us a picture of what will this higher unity look like. This high, when I say higher, I mean the highest, the third.
100%. Thank you. That was great explanation.
Yeah,
that answered. Do you have a question? Yeah.
No, I thought that was very important discussion. Shkoyach. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. That's why I think the pasuk is a very powerful pasuk. I mentioned it, which says Lo yilamdu oid ishes re'ehu, meaning one will not, when Mashiach comes, one will no longer teach his friend. So you won't have teacher-student, because kikulam yedu AC. We will all know AC. Everyone will know me, Atzmus. So you don't need teacher-student. Everybody knows Atzmus. But then it says, interesting, lemiktanam vad delam, from young to old, or from small to large. So the Rebbe's father, and the Rebbe talks about this as well. So 1 second, you just said you don't need teacher student because kolim yeda esi. Everyone knows esi. So why are you saying k'tanim v'agdela, which suggests that there's a younger one, an older one, or someone with less capacity, someone more capacity? And that's what the answer. The answer is because Atzmus, like we're learning here, can manifest. Remember, his ratzon is to manifest in Gvul just as he manifests in Bligvul. Since when is Bligvul superior to Gvul? So Atzmus will be in your Gvul on your terms, and in your Gvul on your terms. So there'll be Katan and Gadol, but all Kolim Yedu Esi, everyone through their lens will experience Atzmus. So of course you need more explanation what this means, but this is only possible after the whole Seder Shtalshus and the Tzimtzum. First, we need to be independent entities. We can't begin with that total unity, or else we would become completely annihilated. So first, we begin everyone on their level. We climb Yichud Tata, Yichud Ilah, like we said. You expand your containers. You become wiser. You start understanding Ben Chamash Mikra, Ben Esel Mishnah. We learn Mutfa, Murgash, Muskal. We grow. As we expand, we come to finally say Yichud Ilah. Then we come to Yichud, the third Yichud of Das Elyon and Das Tachten as one, like we're learning how Atzmus, from Atzmus' point of view. And then that itself, like it fits each one of us into our so-called personality. That's essentially what the pasuk is saying. I'm just rephrasing what I said before. I didn't say anything much different.
Yeah, but I think it's important to realize when you say there will be different levels like Mekatani and Legadolim, that's not a limitation. That's the desire of God, that multiplicity, so to speak, within Atzmus is what he initially wanted in the first place. It's all expression of Atzmus on different levels and different ways. But it's
this needs more conversation. I just don't want to. I want to stick to the theme here because I don't want to get off track too much. But we'll get back to it. Trust me, we'll get back to it because it's a vital component. First of all, you want to understand Mashiach's times. What kind of diversity will exist? What won't be diversity? Where there'll be at the end of the day, remember, the point here is that from Atzma's point of view, not Yichudei Law. Yichudei Law, you could say existence doesn't matter. It's completely nullified in the presence of the divine. But in the third level, you're really saying it's both. He says clearly it's Das Tachten and Das Elyon. That means even the Atzmus, not just us, but Atzmus also sees Das Tachten. It's just that for him, Das Tachten is one with Das Elyon. So you have to say that the diversity and the uniqueness of each creation stands even in Atzmus because he wants it. The only thing is, that's his will. That's a critical thing to remember. So when we're uniting with how Atzmus sees it, we can't negate that Hashem wants differences. He wants Das Tachten. However, it's not a Das Tachten that's weaker in bittul or less united. It's part of it. It's like let me put it maybe in these terms. They said that when the Alter Rebbe would eat, I'm not sure who said it. A Rebbe said it or a Chassidim said it. It was like koyach hagvul of Ein Sof. In other words, he didn't eat because he was hungry and he had to eat. It was manifesting the Eibishter wants gvul, so now it's gvul. I mentioned, for example, at the end of a Farbrengen, the Rebbe would, after he made Kiddush in the beginning of Farbrengen, he'd take a little mezainis, just a little, and then the Farbrengen would go on. The Rebbe wouldn't touch the mezainis, the cake, at all, or rarely. At the end of the Farbrengen, the Rebbe would eat more mezainis. In order to be able to make up bracha achrein, you have to have enough mezainis. He didn't eat enough. So I used to always think to myself, we make a bracha in order to eat, and the Rebbe's eating in order to make a bracha. Because God said, I want you to make a bracha. To make a bracha, there's a condition. There are things that God says the condition is, I don't have conditions. You're manifesting bligvul. But there are times I want to express myself in a particular shir. You want to make this blessing, you have to eat the food and a certain amount of it. We come from it from the point of view we're finite creatures and we need to eat, so we eat. But you could fully understand that you can have existence with all its details and it's simply God's expression. It's simply God. So why is that less infinite than his infinite expression? I know from our point of view, we're far more nispal, we're more excited when we see infinity than when we see one drop of water. But why is one fiber of existence less miraculous than the whole expanses of all the universes or beyond? That's the point. So really, when you see it through God's lens, it could be complete details. But the details are not limits. They are just the way he's channeling his infinity or beyond infinity even. That's the key. And that takes a lot of work because it's easier to relate to God in the infinite than the finite. That's what Shlomo HaMelech was saying, actually. Even heaven and heavens can't contain you. How is a little building in Jerusalem Temple Mount going to contain you? And that's what Eibishter says. What do you mean? The heaven of heaven, nothing can contain me, but I want to be contained in this Beis HaMikdash, and that's that. Because like the Medrash brings, Chassidus brings, the Maris Gdelis, Maris Ktanis. The same person, if you look in a small mirror, you look small. In a big mirror, you look large. Same person. So imagine an infinite mirror would look like an infinite, a little mirror. Like a drop of water reflects the whole sun, just like the Pacific Ocean does. I mean, many other examples just to make it a little more
not to get us
palatable or palpable. Yeah, palatable. Yeah.
Not to get it. I know you want to move on, but just one quick question on this point. It's critical. So la'asi lavo and most Mashiach, there's the yichud yichudim that's revealed. Then there'll still be this differentiation because das tachton still exists, and that's the way the Eibishter want to be. Okay, so fine, Mela, good. That's what you just said.
Das tachton through the lens of God. Das
right.
Tachton,
okay.
Right.
Okay, but how? So taking that, and if we're capable of contemplating this contemplation that we just talked about, essentially, in a nutshell, what Shema is all about, and we can carry that around with us all the time. I'm not saying I'm capable of it, but theoretically, someone that's really, but misbona and it's really contemplating deeply all the time could carry that hashkafa, that perspective with them all the time. So when I go hiking in nature as a mushel and I see a leaf or a drop of water, whatever, I can behold Atzmus and I can say to myself, yes, I see it's distinctive, it's differentiated, but this is godliness and how beautiful is it? So what's the difference, which by the way, I do when I walk in nature. Every moment? No, but I do that. I behold the trees. What's the difference between that, which I do right now, and la'asi lavo, when essentially you're saying the same thing?
What you described to me is das tachton, not the yichud of das tachton and das elyon. You described to me that you could see God's infinite beauty even in a petal of a flower, even in a moment in time. Absolutely. I see that as not Atzmus. I see that as das tachton. Mm-hmm. Because what you're doing is you're looking at the leaf not as an end in itself. You understand it as being God's art, if you wish, and completely godliness. I'm not saying there's a yesh, there's no other agenda. I fully understand. You're seeing godliness. You're not seeing anything else except God's handiwork. Okay, because you see, you're talking very intellectually, but you first have to get to tell me what Yechudei law would be before we get to number 3. If you can explain to me how you see Yechudei law, then I'll
I see. You. Okay, good challenge.
So then you have to come to a point where you say, 1 second, okay, I see God through this flower. Great, beautiful. The whole world is God's art. And you even live by it. With kindness, you're refined, you're sensitive to the environment, you're sensitive to human beings, everything is God. So I'm not just saying it's an intellectual, I will even say it affects your avodah, your personality, right? And let's say you're able to hold on to it even 24/7. I'm even going that far. But you haven't really experienced a God that's completely beyond existence, where you come to say, 1 second here, is God defined by all this? No, there's a whole, like I said many times, is he even an artist? God is not even an artist. He's beyond being an artist. So you have to then get to a level where everything becomes batul mitzias, not annihilating existence, but understanding that God is completely beyond it all. And then you can come to number 3 and come back to existence and say, now this whole existence, all it is just a... Now this needs a lot of talk and conversation because this is real. We're talking about real levels of avodah here. I'm not talking about... Intellectually, it's going to be hard for me to explain what's the difference between 1 and 3, if you know what I'm saying. Because you could say, 1 second, I'm going to come back anyway to exist. I'm going to come back to this flower at the end anyway.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, but that's nice intellectually. But Naveda, if you went through real Yechudei law, it's not so simple. It won't be easy to come back to the flower, first of all. It's going to take a big, big work because you're going to see everything in the context of pure light and pure divine. So anyway, I definitely would reserve for a more longer discussion how, because you're talking already actually applying these 3 levels in our own work. And that's it. So it deserves conversation, no question about it. But we're talking already applying Chassidus, and we haven't finished the Mimer yet. At least this part of the Mimer. So I want to finish it and see everything the Mittler Rebbe says, and go back to the Ayin Beis even. I think by looking at all the words, you have to go back to how they explained it. Because none of them really said, okay, so what's the difference between 3 and 1? They don't say that. They just say there's 1, 2, and 3. But there are parts in Ayin Beis that I think you can pretty much figure it out, especially on page 1472, if I recall correctly. Because when he asked the question, if you remember, at the bottom of 1474, why are there 2 levels of Ayin? If Das Elyon and Das Tachten are all one, why are there 2 levels of Ayin? And he answers there, it's the 2 levels because that's what Hashem wanted. He wanted 2 different things. So then it comes down to, can we appreciate that the details come from the same place as the big picture comes? In other words, you could see the divine in the petal of a flower, but you can't see the divine in another creature in the flower.
It's not the same contemplation, is your point.
Right. So in other words, you're only seeing the divine in the detail. You're not seeing the whole in the detail. And that may be part of it. So beautiful.
That was a nice bekitzer. Anyway, sorry, I didn't to digress from the learning, but thank you.
Oh, but that
it's
third level,
frankly not so digressing in concept. It's just digressing more because I want to finish what the text says, and then it'll be because listen. This is the Maimarim, as the Rabbeim say. What we're doing now is applying it to our lives, which is critical. I mean, that's like everything everything I do is around that. But I still feel the need to finish the text before really doing it properly.
Thank you.
Is there a term in Chassidus specifically for that third Yehuda? Yehuda Tata, Yehuda Allah, and then the third one is what? Yehuda Shleimut? Is there
this is the place. He just calls it the Yichud of both Yehudim. Hail Deus Havaya. I'm just looking in the Maimon in the Ayin Beis. Liyachid Beis Yehudim. Lahmahava Echad Be'echad. I don't know if there's a name for it.
Gilui Atzmus?
Yeah, but there you're not focusing on the Yichud. There you're just saying Gilui Atzmus. It is coming from the Atzmus perspective, but there's also a letter from the Rebbe that I think we should learn in Chelik Yud Aleph, in Likutei Sichos, a letter where he talks about 3 ways to explain Mokem Ha'ar and Eina Min Amida, from the point of view of space, from the point of view of beyond space, and from the point of view that joins both together. Mm-hmm. It could be that may be helpful, that letter. I want to look it up as well.
That would be great.
Interesting letter, very interesting letter. I always struggle with it, but I think learning this is connected to that a lot. Okay. Now, the next line, I'm even hesitant to read it, to be honest. Not God forbid I'm afraid to. It's just that it definitely says something new. He says like this now. Ach, but Torah and Mitzvos. However, in Torah and Mitzvos, nitfus mamish. Atzmus is nitfus mamish. He just said that the Beis HaMikdash, or in the Heichel Kodesh Kodashim, is tfisa mamish, but he's not nitfus. But Torah and Mitzvos is nitfus mamish. What does this mean? So let's see what he means by that. Like it'll be in the future. Elam Haba is referring to loss of love. Tiksiv lahanchil oyev Yesh. So expression is the hanchilei Yesh, that Amachum said the hanchilei Yesh, that they will inherit. Oiva Yesh, what does Oiva Yesh mean? So in the Mishnah it says Yesh is a Shai Elamis, 310 worlds. But Chassidus teaches b'chinas Yesh HaAmiti, that they will actually acquire and experience the Yesh HaAmiti. Yesh HaAmiti is Atzmus. K'moi shehu, as he is, without any dilution, without any diffusion. Sheyovei b'chinas Kelim, the Neshamas Yisroel, begufim, b'tchias HaMesim, ve'elam haba. That will manifest Sheyovei in containers of Neshamas Yisrael, not just in the souls, as they manifest in bodies, which are containers, in the resurrection, Tchias HaMesim, and Elam Haba, Shu Gam came b'chinas Yesh, which means this is also a level of Yesh, because it'll be within the bodies are Yesh, and Elam Haba is a Yesh, the Yesh of this world. In other words, Loss and Love is not going to be that we're just going into spiritual levels. It's all going to be a dira b'tachtenim in this world. This world's a world of Yesh. And it will manifest the Yesh HaAmiti. K'mo Yesh Gomer Muvdal V'nifret. What he means by that is not that it will be separate from godliness, but it's a Yesh, like the Yesh that was separate, the Yesh will remain a Yesh. However, the Yesh will be completely aware of godliness, but it's still going to be something of substance with an identity. Im Kain, if that's the case, Yesh miyesh mamish. So if that's the case, it's Yesh miyesh, the Yesh from the Yesh of this world, from the Yesh HaAmiti. Al kolponim, Yesh miyesh mamish, al kolponim bedilug beis madregas hanal. This may be a little confusing, but let's read it and then I'll try to explain. Al kolponim, it does manifest through a leap of the two levels of Ayin that we learned before. The ma'ayin liyesh, shubchaba achar miyesh la'ayin. So even though the end of the process is going to be the Yesh in existence, will be one with the Yesh HaAmiti, but it will go through the steps. From the Yesh HaAmiti to the Ayin, Yesh la'ayin, and from the Ayin to the Yesh. So the Ayin is essentially the Oir. That's the divine energy, the expression of the divine. And we learned there's two levels. So it's through that leap, Matam Hanal, for the reason that we discussed earlier, that there's the two levels of Ayin. Elablima Mutza Klal, the Klal. So what will we lost in love with the Chiddush? Now you need the Mamutza to get from this Yesh to here. We have to go through beyond Ishtalshlus and Ishtalshlus, two levels of Ayin. La'osid Lave, will be without any interface at all. Rakamoishu ba'atzmus alakuz dafke. Exactly as it is in the Atzmus alakuz, that's how it will be in the Yesh. V'loy ha'arav v'ziv levad, and not a reflection, not a light, a reflection, a light and a reflection. Exactly as it is, miskabel b'mekablim, it will be received and contained by the recipients. Who shehem Torah and Mitzvos, b'neshamas Yisroel shebe'elam haba b'chinas Yesh Gomer. They will receive it directly. Not a reflection.
He's kind of saying what you said.
Hold on. Look, let me finish reading it and one second. Which is Torah Mitzvos and Neshamas Yisrael in Elam Haba b'chinas Yesh Gomer, meaning completely as a Yesh Gomer, there'll be an existence. V'lo yeh b'chinas pirud klal klal. That's the difference. Today, the Yesh is pirud. We don't feel the godliness. We could be separate. We can actually, God forbid, completely defy God and go away and be right. But then the Yesh will be completely aligned without any pirud at all. Let me finish. Shazeu havaya lekenu mamish. This takes us back. That's so it's mamish havaya lekenu. He's basically saying by Yisroel, Shema Yisroel, havaya lekenu mamish. And here he's saying it's deeper, it seems to me, than the Kodesh Kadoshim. Because he said, there he said it's nitvis and not nitvis. Now he's saying it's nitvis and nitvis, which needs explanation what that means. What does that mean? What do you mean God is contained by Neshamas Yisrael, by Torah and Mitzvos? But he did say ach. That's why that's why I said it seems like a big chiddush. But I want to finish before I try to understand that. Shezeu havaya l'keinu mamish gam ata. Also today, also now. So in other words, when we say Shema Yisrael havaya l'keinu, we're saying it now also. So what's the difference between now and L'asad Lovei? Rakshahu behelam. B'levush de Torah Mitzvos. It's concealed in the garment of Torah Mitzvos. In other words, it's not revealed in the Neshamas Yisrael in the fullest sense of the word, even though it's truly there, but it's not revealed. U'biyichudi Eloah b'krishma b'omrei havaya l'keinu havaya echad kanal. So it's I'm just reading as I see it. It's concealed in the garment of Torah Mitzvos and in the higher yichud of Shema, when we say havaya l'keinu havaya echad kanal, as we learned earlier. And how do we know it's also now? Because the mitam zeh, because Neshamas Yisrael have it within them. For that reason, Yesh b'yacholtem liyachid yichud elon hazeh shalamayla min ishtalshus. That's why they're able to be miyachid this higher yichud that's higher than the cosmic order, the Sev of Amala. Sev of Amala is the two levels of ishtalshus. Well, why could they unite them if they don't have it within them? They can't do the union. That means even today we are able to do it. It's just not revealed. They do it, but Omram Havaya L'Keinu Dafke Shebli Amtsoi. That's Havaya L'Keinu without any interface, without any intermediary. Al Kain Havaya Zeh Echad Ba'Achdus Pshuta. And that's why the Havaya L'Keinu is one with Havaya Echad, one. Ba'Achdus Pshuta, seamless unity. Gam Ata, also now. Because we say Shema now, we don't only say it L'asad Lovei. So let me just finish the paragraph. V'hu masha nikra alufei shalelam. And this is what we call alufei shalelam. The aleph of Echad is alufei shalelam, the master of the universe. She'ena elam mekei klal. So he's the master of the universe, but he's not contained by the universe. U'kamei shekosov tamlicho. Like we said earlier, I brought from the Gemara that Tamlichu, that is the Toli ben Neshamas Yisrael, they Torah and Mitzvos, that they are the ones. So the world itself does not contain Hashem. The world is created by Hashem, and He is the master. But who reveals that He's the master, and who reveals that Yichud? That's Toli and Neshamas Yisrael through Torah and Mitzvos. Sheyam shichu me'era Atzmus mamish. That these Neshamas Yisrael, they draw down from this Atzmus mamish, the Ein Sham Hester V'Helam Klal, where there's no concealment or covering, unlike Ishtalshus, where there is a covering. V'yeh Achdus Pshuta, or Echad Poshet Lamata, that this seamless unity should be below Kamei Lamayla, Bli Shinui Klal, should be below, just as it is above, without any shift, without any change. But who Masha Kosav, and this is what it means when it says Shema Yisrael Dafke, Dafke Yisrael, Havaya L'Keinu Dafke, and Dafke Havaya L'Keinu, Havaya Echad Poshet. Is Havaya Echad Poshet, seamless and one, Kul V'Dal. So he answered both questions that he asked. Why is Dafke? Why the focus is on Yisrael? And the first question about what does this pasuk come to add? Havaya L'Keinu coming to add. Not just Eined Milvade, essentially what he's saying, but that there's this seamless unity from above and below. Doesn't spell out the answer, but it seems to be that's why he's concluding in this paragraph what he began in the beginning of the paragraph.
If Havaya is two Torah
Mitzvos, one second.
Today,
hold on a second. So we finished this paragraph. Some things need, I believe, some more explanation. Like what did he mean? But Torah Mitzvos nitfus mamish. Is he saying that Torah Mitzvos and the Neshamas Yisrael are actually unlike existence? What I said earlier, that existence is created by Atzmus, and we can reveal in the stone, and we can reveal in the flowers, we can reveal in existence the highest level of the third level of Yichud, but it can't reveal itself. Whereas Torah Mitzvos and the Neshamas Yisrael are actually contain Atzmus in the fullest sense of the word. Is that what he's saying? Because that would be a tremendous chiddush. I'm not saying he's not saying it. I'm just pointing out that it sounds like he's saying that.
So
And
why don't we hear it today?
Hold on. And it is consistent with what I said earlier. Or does he mean something more different than this? And then there's also the issue that Elam Haba, he says that's what we'll see it revealed. But it's also today that way. So the Yesh, so basically there are three levels here, so to speak. The Yesh of existence, today is a Yesh Nifrad. And the Neshamas Yisroel come into this world, and they also could be separate, God forbid, in their own feeling. But the Neshamas Yisroel, even today, have the Yichud Elyon, highest level, embedded in their DNA, and they have to actualize it through Shema Yisrael. And La'asid Lave, those Neshamas will be successful. We will have revealed it, that even in existence, we see this higher level of Yichud. So you basically have today and the future, and Neshamas Yisrael and the world around us. And that is the distinction, what he's focusing on here. Sounds to me that's the picture. But I like to be careful because a lot of very heavy and powerful statements here. Because ultimately, to say that God is nitfis in anything is a very big chiddush, because the fact is the Atzmus, by definition, is not contained by anything. So what are we saying? That Torah and Mitzvos Neshamas Yisrael is like Atzmus, is not contained by it because they are it, like the child of a father? Like he says in Tanya, that the Nefesh Elikis is like from the very seed and the essence of the Father. So therefore, it's not that he's nitfis. Whatever is, since Atzmus is not nitfis, Neshamas Yisrael and Torah and Mitzvos are also not nitfis. Is that the explanation, or is there more to it? This I leave for discussion purposes. So I'm going to stop here at the end of this paragraph. I see you all want to say something by all means, but I just wanted to spell out some of the.
It seems to me that this is.
I wish we would have the Rebbe Rashab here, and if he had written this out, I'm sure we would have had unbelievable stuff. But we'll work with what we have, and we'll try to do our best. Okay, take it away.
It seems to me that what you said, this is the veil. The only thing why only Elam Habo it's going to be clear, even the Yesh HaNivra, why not today?
Well, you don't understand why. Because there's a tzimtzum and a golus, and the whole point is that there should be a tachtenim. The Eibishter wanted tachtenim. If it would be today, the din of tachtenim is our avodah to be megala lakus. God didn't. If God's going to do it Himself, it takes away the whole purpose of existence.
And also away.
That's the result of our work, that we've accomplished what we were sent to do. We made a din of tachtenim.
I don't understand how we can contain, we're not contained. I don't understand how we're not. I mean, if we're a Yesh, how can we, and we can't, how is this possible? I just don't understand it. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's all right. So that's what I said. We'll discuss it more in coming classes. Because we are not a stone. We are a child of God's. God embedded His divine essence within us. You understand? That's the difference. That was the whole discussion. That's what he began on page 384 to explain why Yisroel dafka, because Allah b'machshava. We're not the building. We're the child that is given the building called existence, and we are God's so-called chosen divine ambassador, if you wish.
We're Mamutzayim ourselves.
Well,
right?
So that word I wouldn't use in this context because it'd be very confusing. Because here he's saying it's without him. Sorry.
Or Yesh HaNivra and Yesh HaAmiti without the HaMiti together. I was thinking that the difference between us and how is this discussion about Neshamas Yisrael different than the Makoma Aron Enamina Mida, which you have Yesh and and Atzmus together in one, there it would seem like there's no das tachton, that the Ayin itself, even though it's exhibiting, manifesting this paradox of Yesh Nivra and Yesh HaAmiti together, it doesn't have that aspect of Yesh of das tachton. That
No, that's not correct. Mokim
No?
Ayin means das Tachten. Mokim Ayin, there's a space you can measure it.
Right, but it doesn't have das. Like you were saying, the stone doesn't have.
Oh, you mean
das.
it doesn't? You mean the Ayin is
Doesn't
not
have
like
consciousness.
can't effectuate it. That's what you mean.
Yes, exactly. Can't
It's fine.
reveal
It manifests it. It manifests it. Correct. We have to build it. Look, at the end of the day, we build the Mishkan and the Beis Hamikdash. It didn't build itself.
Right. We have from our perspective, we have God gave us consciousness, like a free will. We can elevate ourselves and understand this whole process, whereas the Ayin Kodesh doesn't have that ability to have that kind of. It can
But you
manifest.
can. But what about Torah and Mitzvos? He said Torah and Mitzvos. He said
right through
the
Torah
Ayin
Mitzvos we can
has
do
the
it.
Torah within it.
Yeah, but it's not self-conscious. It doesn't have It doesn't have Chachma being a das.
Yeah, but does Torah have consciousness?
I would say no. Chachma Din das itself.
Well, so then why does he say that with Torah? But by Torah Mitzvos, he said nitfas mamish. He didn't just say Neshamas Yisrael. Torah Mitzvos nitfas mamish k'moishiyeh.
Because it's a Jew.
I don't know if you can make that. Where do you get that?
Doing
here, Neshamas Yisrael and Torah Mitzvos here in this mimer are synonymous here. He's not distinguishing Torah and Neshamas here. So if
they have a conscious, they are part of Atzmus.
They're Chochmah Shel Kadosh Baruch Hu, yeah.
But they don't have das tachton, Rabbi Teitel. They're not seeing it from our.
I don't know. I don't relate to what you're saying. I don't know if that's correct.
Because the Rebbe is making a distinction between ach.
Where did he make a distinction between Neshamas and Torah? He didn't make a distinction at all. On the contrary,
no,
he brought them together as one.
No, between us and Shamas and the Ayin.
But I'm talking about Torah. We're talking about Torah and Mitzvos now. He says Torah and Mitzvos and the Shamas.
Right. No. Remember you had a question about the ach, but Torah Mitzvos nifras mamish kamoshi.
So Torah Mitzvos. So right. So the Ayin, I understand what you're saying. It's a structure and so on. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's correct exactly, but we have to think about it. Okay. No, I'm hearing what you're saying. I'm not sure. Initially, well, depending what I have to read it again a few times and see what he means here.
It's interesting that when yesh without an emsoi, yesh v'yesh without the ayin, yesh v'ayin, the ayin be'emsa, and you have just yesh together, it's 620, which is the total of all the Torah mitzvahs, all the mitzvahs. You can, when you fulfill all the mitzvahs, 620, including the Rabbanim, you have Atzmus, the yichud of Yesh, HaNivra, and Yesh HaAmiti.
Very nice.
That it says that in the Mishnah says so it talks why 310 times twice is 620, correct? Tarach, Keser. It's also Keser.
Keser, it's Keser, which is Ayin base. The whole goal of Ayin base, right? Was it a Keser, the first line? Okay.
Are there any other questions? I mean, let's put it this way. It's very clear that it's Neshamas Yisrael through Torah. Remember, Shema Yisrael is a pasuk in the Torah. It's a tefillah. So it's Neshamas Yisrael with Torah that accomplished what he's saying here. Okay. And they become Kalim Mamish. In other words, will there be a difference between how the Yesh HaNivra of the Neshamas will be one with the Yesh HaAmiti and how the Beis Hamikdash will be one? Okay. I think I have to go and find there's a very important footnote which we learned actually in Chukas Mem Ches, where the Rebbe speaks about this a bit as well. Okay, I'll do some more research. Go ahead. Any other questions here?
I thought we were trying to figure out that in our lifetime, how to experience that before Olam Haba as an experience, and I didn't see it, and then we're back to the same thing that it's only in Olam Haba.
What do you mean? He just said it's also Ata now. That's why we say Shema every day. This is our avodah. This is our work. There's no magic here.
There's no experience. We don't experience.
1 second. These Maimorim were written in Golos. We have these Maimorim telling us all this now, and it says that it's now. In Mashiach comes, you understand Mashiach will be a far greater revelation than we have today. That's obvious.
Oh, but I thought this whole thing was to get a gili of this now.
But didn't you read that it also exists now? That's why we say Shema Yisroel, and we have to do our best in reaching these levels as best as one can. But the full-blown experience in the fullest sense of the word, right now, nobody can deny that the Yesh HaNivra is not exactly aligned with Atzmus. Look around the world today. We wouldn't have wars. We wouldn't have pain. We wouldn't have loss. We wouldn't have a nefesh habamis to contend with. All this is a contemplation of Shema. This is the avodah. This is why it's hard work to doing Shema. Let's not forget this is avodah. This is not. He's not writing here theories and philosophical ideas. He's giving us a blueprint of what work we need to do. That's the bottom line of it all.
And by the way, is this only? I mean, it says Torah Mitzvos, and it's also a mitzvah to say Shema at certain times. Does that mean this type of a thinking? If we'd say Shema, let's say in the afternoon when it's not a mitzvah, or a woman who says it, that mitzvah, is it the same type of thing when done as a mitzvah at the right times?
He made it clear that the mitzvah of Shema is a mitzvah klolis. That's the foundation of all mitzvahs, because all mitzvahs come to unite and integrate the divine in existence. Every mitzvah, whether it's charity, whether it's davening, whether it's learning, and we say, or if we don't say, we kavana liyachid kudsha b'richa v'shchin to every mitzvah. He said this earlier. So every mitzvah we do, and even things that are not, even divrei reshus, that when we eat l'shem shamayim, we're all doing a form of unity. So Shema is the central mitzvah of mitzvahs yichud that spreads, frankly, 24/7 in everything we do. There are actual mitzvahs we do, and there are places where it's not a mitzvah, but it's still the idea that when you're walking down the street and you think Tanya Baal Peh or Mishnay's Baal Peh, it's not a mitzvah to do it, but when you're doing it, you're revealing divine unity in the very street that you're walking.
Ah, very nice. Thank you.
This is so awesome. I mean, no wonder the Rebbe wanted us to get everybody going here. I mean, we have the power, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So we stop here, then this paragraph. Any other questions? If not, I'm going to end of the paragraph, middle page 386. You need to go over this. I need to go over it for sure. Maybe you have it all figured out. I don't, to be honest. But